Hey guys, this is National Master Kevin Yang back at it with another video, and this time we'll be talking about a recent game that I played against a fellow chess club member. So today we're going to cover a game in which, it wasn't very easy, but I had to really take advantage of those mistakes that were made on the opponent's side in order to win this. So as you can tell, the first move, I was white, my opponent was black, I played knight c3. Now, it's not the most common, nor is it the best move, but it develops the knight, right? e5, I play e4. Once again, controlling the center, like we always do. Use this to protect this pawn, right? Knight f6, right? Bishop c4. Now, there's this line, knight takes e4, right? So this is what we call the center fork. Takes d5. This piece and this piece are hanging. So what people do, instead of taking back, they play queen h5. Threaten, and they threaten. So then knight d6 occurs, right? And here, could play queen takes. You could play bishop b3 and knight f3, both of which are fine. You play here, here. Okay, this, right? Knight f3, knight c6, takes. Something like this. Putting pressure and not trading any pieces. So this is impossible. So bishop c5, the most principled, looking towards the center, and at the same time developing a piece. So here I play f4. And f4 comes with a risk. First of all, black should always consider the possibility of taking this knight, because then this king will no longer be able to castle this way, because the bishop will have made this rook move. And as we say in castling, right, if one of the pieces moves, either the king or the rook, then he will no longer be able to castle on that particular side. So if bishop takes g1, rook takes g1, takes a pawn, and back to h1, he can't castle anymore because the rook already moved, right? So just remember that. Bishop c5, f4. Now in this case, this wouldn't be so great because notice that this bishop is really doing a good job controlling the d4 square, developing. You want the bishop pair. This knight isn't developed, so it'd be good reason to keep this bishop. I'd suggest the best move here would be not to take, because in the game, taking led to my pawn push-up. Attack the bishop, attack the pawn. That was my goal. So this might seem like, okay, I'm posing a threat to the center, but all you have to do is play d6. Keep it cool. Keep your bishop threatening this diagonal. I might play knight f3, right? But you could play knight up. Continue to push here. Continue to put pressure here. Get the bishop out later. So in this case, in this game, or in this position, black would definitely be the preferred one, but I was sort of playing a bluff here. So f4, the bluff worked out. Then I played d4. Bishop b4, perfectly, really good move. Now I played queen f3, and I wanted to see if there was the brilliancy that my opponent could spot. Now, here I could play knight here. Here's the thing. Looked at this. I saw knight takes e4, castle kingside. And despite me being down a pawn, right, I have all these pieces coming in, and this side for black looks really busted. So we have to see how important development is. Like takes, right? And then let's say bishop e7. And now even this is possible. Wow, takes, knight takes. This is possible? No, I don't believe this. I assume just knight takes. Castles, knight d5, get the bishop in, get the queen in, get the bishop in, get the queen in, get the bishop rerouted, and attack this pawn, right? So let's say it comes out like queen h5, like d6, and I don't know about this. Takes, knight takes. Oh, but then there's this, but that's complicated. So queen h5, d6. I feel like one move you could do was take and then get the bishop out, put some additional pressure on here. Right, so queen takes, bishop g5. Queen has to go to d7 to continue to protect against these three threats, right? Otherwise, let's say if this queen came here, then bam, king h8. And see if you can spot the killer. Bam. Because attacks the queen, rook attacks rook. So if queen takes, checkmate, right? And then takes, here, checkmate. So you have to get this bishop out, right? But there's this checkmate too. So we have to always keep aware. So knight e2 was actually a really good move for me, and I just sort of overlooked the development aspect of it. So instead I played queen f3. And I knew right away, I thought, if my opponent sees the d5, bishop g4 idea, it'll be brilliant. So I was thinking this, takes, and then bishop g4. And the brilliancy behind this d5 move is, although it looks like a pawn sacrifice, takes, right? There's a bishop, there's a queen on it, but this knight is pinned, right? So I was thinking bishop g4, queen takes f4, and then, what was it? Take, queen takes. No, I think it was castles. And this was extremely hard to spot because you need to be able to recognize as a chess player that development is really important. And in this case, the rook check is going to deal really devastating blow to my king, right? So I always have to keep aware of that. And in this case, d5 would have really done the job. So let's look back at it, right? So instead what happened was queen f3, d5 should have been the move, but it was really hard to spot, I gotta say. This takes, even in this position, you can play castles, and that would be really good for you because knight here, you bring the bishop out, and you threaten these knights, and they don't have harmony, right? So I felt like this was a bluff I was playing as well. So luckily, I got to develop my pieces. Knight e2, get to protect this guy, get to create some center forks, and then once again I allowed the opportunity of d5, and in this case it'd be the same idea. d5 takes bishop g4 and try to destroy the harmony of the knights, right? You can look into this further with the computer, but if queen here takes, the knight cannot take because it's pinned. So if the queen takes, then the rook comes out, right? So the king has to take. And then the knight comes here, attacks the bishop, and eventually to take this. Because the bishop will take the defender, and then the knight will take it. So for example, this takes, check, bam, and bam. Threaten on this, threaten maybe on this, maybe push with c5. But this king looks really bad compared to this guy, right? So I would much favor black's position over white's here. And I was trying to create these tricky outlets to see if my opponent would spot these, but it was really hard to spot the move d5, I gotta be honest with you. Rook e8, and now I get to complete my development. Now if you're thinking about d5 here, the only problem with d5 here is because the bishop no longer pins the king. So now knight takes d5 works. You might think, take, bishop takes. Okay, so what about takes here? But the Doozle comes in. The big bulldozer comes ramming in. The family of forks, and it's all going bust. One rook, two rooks, coming back as possible. So this wouldn't be ideal. Bishop e6, d5, a fork, knight a5, really good move. Take, but now always remember to count the material, right? The material is always important. So in this case, when you capture here, and I capture here, you have to count how many pieces you have. You have 1, 2, 3. I have 1, 2, 3, right? So your best move was to either retreat this bishop or to take this pawn, right? So if you retreated, I play takes, I play c3. The idea being bishop c5 and a family fork. But that was hard to spot. And here, I'd be up a piece, and now I unleashed a power tactic. Takes, bishop takes h7. Take the queen, eliminated the pieces, and brought my last piece in. So in this game, I pretty much set a bunch of traps that weren't necessarily good moves, right? Like there were d5 opportunities, and this game really depended upon the mistakes. And the only reason I won was because I let these mistakes